This next segment has to do with a tribute to the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, of course, died in 1968, but his memory lives on through the nation with celebrations and a federal holiday in the middle of January. In the past few years, New Bedford has declared the Monday holiday as a day of service. There has also been public celebrations of Dr. King's memory each year for this year will be a dozen years in the city of New Bedford. My guest is Marcy Pina Christian, who was the organizer or the chairperson of a committee that organizes this event. Marcy, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning to you. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Your first recollection of Dr. King as a younger person. What do you think? Remember that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. King, well, for me, he's a civil rights icon. I think he's undoubtedly one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. And for me, as a young girl, I remember very vividly seeing him on the television, his speeches, hearing my parents, their conversations about him. And as a young girl, I remember the impact, his voice so resounding, such a great orator. And it definitely had an impact on me. And as I grew older, reading his books, the words became alive to me. I understood what he was communicating. And throughout my lifetime, even today, I'm sure within this interview, I will quote some of the words of Dr. King because I am guided by his words and his writings and his leadership within my life.
His assassination in 1968 shocked many, many, many Americans, people all over the world as well. I remember thinking, why was there hate so strong against this man? Mm-hmm. Yes, he was pushing for change, but he was doing so in a peaceful manner, a non-violent manner. Mm-hmm. He did teach us all and could have continued to teach us all for many years, I think, if he had survived and or had continued to go on with his life. What's important for all of us to remember about Dr. King and his life? What do you think? What should we remember most?
That's a very good question. There's so much to remember. Well, his words give him immortality because his words continue to inspire generations. But I think for me, what resonates most with me about Dr. King is the power of leadership, how one man, and it wasn't just him, obviously, there were many everyday people, but how he was able to mobilize the whole world to really make the changes that he did to advance civil rights is just remarkable.
Well, he was a religious man, certainly, and a man of the people. He was also a pretty good politician in his own right.
Yes, he was.
And brought about some great changes with the help of, President Johnson, President Kennedy to some extent, but President Johnson, and also members of Congress.
And it just makes you think, because you look at our world today, it's so divisive. We're so polarized today. And, you wonder, and certainly Dr. King, during the time period that he lived, there was so much upheaval. That was a difficult time in American history with race relations and violence, and to be able to bring peace and bring people together under the most difficult of circumstances was really quite an amazing accomplishment.
Let's talk about the local ceremony for a moment, Marcy. You participate in this every year. You help organize it. What's the goal of this ceremony? Or maybe there is no goal. Maybe you just want to recognize Dr. King. But is there a lasting message here, perhaps?
I think there is. I think there are not enough opportunities where, the whole community comes together. And when I say the whole community, various ages, various races, interfaith, I don't think there are enough opportunities for all of us to get together like that in just celebration of unity, of brotherhood. And so in that sense, I think the program over the years has been very successful. We usually have anywhere between 400 to 600 on the high end in attendance. And many people, they call down to City Hall if they haven't seen a flyer or any information on it and they want to know. They'll say, where is it this year? Because within the last 12 years, what we've done, and that's deliberate, we've moved it to different venues so that it belongs to the community and no one church or organization has ownership of the program.
And we should tell you that the Dr. King Remembrance Celebration in New Bedford will be held later today, 4 p.m. at the First Unitarian Church on 8th Street. And the public is welcome, certainly. We welcome you to stop by. Tell us a little bit about the ceremony today. What will people see and what will people hear?
Well, we, the committee, think of this program, it's in line with the traditional Dr. King celebration. When Dr. King, his holiday was established, most of the celebrations in various cities were your traditional program because the most of the programs were facilitated or coordinated by clergy. So the programs were held in a church. And usually you would have a keynote speaker, and that speaker would be supported with inspirational words, poetry, or music. And the goal of the day or the program is just to uplift people. I like to compare it to Sunday morning. To those of us who are churchgoers. It's the same reason why you go to church on Sunday morning to hear that sermon. And oftentimes when you hear it, you feel like that speaker is speaking directly to you. And you leave feeling good and uplifted, and that message stays with you throughout the week and beyond. And so that's what we hope. We hope that people that come are inspired in some way that they will want to do something within their community.
Dr. King, a big believer, big supporter of education and young people. We're going to see a bit of both, won't we, with the Congdon School Choir and also some essays that have been written by students.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, the essay contest is something that we added to the program. It was a way of developing a partnership with our public schools. And also, we feel that it's important. Dr. King, to many young students, is ancient history. They didn't grow up seeing him on the TV as you and I did. And it's so important to allow them to make those connections with what was going on in the civil rights era and what is going on now. I think that our students need to do more writing, to develop their critical thinking skills. That is very important. And so, in fact, there's a quote by Dr. King in which he states, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character is the goal of education." So we like to think that with the essay that all of that is accomplished, that they have to make those connections in the world that they know with the world that Dr. King lived in. But we're hoping that as they read his quotes and as they interweave those within their essays, that they too will be inspired.
All right. You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. My guest is Marcy Pina Christian. We are talking about the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Remembrance Ceremony being held this afternoon, 4 o'clock, First Unitarian Church in New Bedford, and certainly the public is welcome. Reverend Cordell Polk of the United House of Prayer, keynote speaker today. He has a connection of sorts to Dr. King and his memory, doesn't he?
He does. He does. Reverend Polk grew up as a young boy in Atlanta. And something that I didn't know about him that I learned when I received his bio is that he became an ordained minister at the age of 16. I would love to hear his sermons at that age. But certainly to have a leadership role such as that at such a tender age, there's no doubt in my mind that he was inspired in a great way by Dr. King, and I'm sure that he will share some of his remembrances growing up as a young man in Atlanta where there was just so much going on at that time. So, and Reverend Polk has been a friend of the program for the years that I've been chairing the program. He has always, his choir has performed, and he has played the piano during the program. And he actually was the one, 12 years ago, we always end the program singing "We Shall Overcome." But he was the one that said to me, in the South, when we sing it, the whole audience will interlock their hands. And so he was the one that started that tradition within the program. And so we were looking to a speaker this year, and we were thinking of, someone who was a pastor. The light came off, and we thought, Reverend Polk has been among us all the time.
Sure.
Why not him? And so that's how that came to be. And I'm really excited because he too is a great preacher, and I'm very excited of what he will share with us.
So the service, the remembrance ceremony, if you will, is today, 4 p.m. at the First Unitarian Church on 8th Street in New Bedford. We have a large group of civil rights heroes and role models that we can celebrate in New Bedford. We really
Absolutely.
do. I'm wondering if we really celebrate them enough. Between Martin Luther King, who, as far as we know, never came to New Bedford, but certainly impacted us all. Frederick Douglass, who lived in New Bedford. Paul Cuffey of Westport, who had made his mark as a business person and as a leader here in the region.
Jabril Ghassan, who was the last living of the Greensboro Four.
We cannot forget.
Absolutely.
Dr.
We have a
Ghassan.
rich history.
He is a real hero, certainly. So we have a lot of folks to celebrate here.
We do.
Sometimes I wonder if we're doing that enough in the schools and all of that. I occasionally see Dr. Ghassan, an appearance that he's made on Facebook. But clearly, I wonder if there's enough.
I believe we can do more, because I'm still uncovering new discoveries, about the history of New Bedford. Recently, I went down to Washington to the new African American Museum, and which is just amazing. I would encourage everyone to go there. But when you go through there, you see many connections to New Bedford, because many of the people that you're talking about, they're in this museum, and they come from this area. So this year, many of our organizations have celebrated 100 years. Some of our cultural organizations. So yes, there is a rich history, and that's why we're happy and pleased to have Pastor Cordell Polk, because oftentimes for speakers, we've had international speakers, we've had speakers from outside of the area, but yes, you are right. It's nice to hear from and honor your own as well.
Again, the remembrance ceremony for Dr. Martin Luther King is today at 4 p.m., First Unitarian Church on 8th Street. My thanks to Marcy Pina Christian, who chairs a committee for the Dr. Martin Luther King Remembrance event. It's going on again this afternoon, 4 p.m., First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. Marcy, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Jim, and we look forward to seeing all of you at today's program.